Good evening, I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
And we are the Scanner Guys. And we're live this evening on this Christmas Eve show. And we're going to do one of the shows we typically do each and every month. It's Ask the Scanner Guys or Fun with the Scanner Guys. And we're also going to do a little bit of a year in review. Although we didn't have very many new products or big events, there were some things that actually happened, so we're going to take a look at that tonight. We want to welcome everyone in the United States and around the world to this broadcast, and welcome. We have an exciting show for you with a little bit of a year review, and then, of course, we're going to be answering all your questions. So start posting those questions in the comments section. This is where you guys will actually lead the show. This is the path of the conversation. You guys will actually help lead the path of the conversation of this show tonight. Rich is in the festive holiday hat for this evening. As Kevin said, nice hat, Rich. So thank you, Kevin, for that, for noticing.
Couldn't put my headphones on, so I had to use my earbuds.
So this is going to be a good one tonight. We're going to take a look at the slideshow, and we're going to dive back and forth in between that as well. So let's take a look at that. So the 2020 year in review and Ask the Scanner Guys. So let's take a quick peek at some of these slides here. If you haven't already, make sure you sign up for the Scanner Master e-newsletter. You can do that at scannermaster.com. Here's a sample of one of our past newsletters. We were talking about the 125 AT, the ultimate transportation scanner. We actually made a couple of recommendations on some antennas as well. The BNC VHF antenna that's tuned for the railroads, and the Watson 901 airband antenna that's tuned to the aviation and so on. So yes, the 125 AT is the ultimate transportation scanner. It's available online at scannermaster.com. So definitely place your orders for that. And sign up for our newsletter while you're there, scannermaster.com. And that's scannermaster.com. At the bottom of the page, you'll see a sign up. So if you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter. There's always some great stuff in there. We include product information, like accessories for products you already own, or things that you may have not known, like in our Did You Know segment of the newsletter. And then if we're sending a newsletter the week of a broadcast of the Scanner Guys, it'll also be on the bottom of the page what we're talking about on Wednesday night. So definitely sign up for the newsletter and do that either after the show or right now if you're able to do it on another device. And make sure you get your Scanner Guys swag. We still have t-shirts, hats, and so on. Order those online at thescannerguys.weebly.com, thescannerguys.weebly.com. So you can definitely place an order for your Scanner Guys swag and do that on our website.
I got my email. My hat is on the way.
Oh, good. That is good. I'm not too sure. I haven't checked. Let me just see if my hat is on its way. I
just got the email yesterday, I think it was, that my hat is on the way.
Let's see here.
So if you ordered hats the first time around early, you should be getting an email pretty soon. Joe already mentioned that his hat and his second T-shirt's on the way too. So they're moving.
Yeah. So I just got an email for that. It looks like it's definitely on its way, which is great. Expected on the Monday after the holiday weekend, so that'll be good. Cool. Let's take a look here at the next slide. This is the scanner hint of the week. We also included this in one of our email blasts for all those last-minute shoppers out there. Well, you could probably order this tonight and still get it on the deadline. Any of the software that we have available through Butel Software is available through a download, such as ARC 536, ARC XT, ARC Patrol. Any of the software that we have is available as a download. Why would you want to do a download versus a CD or the new thing is a flash drive?
Yeah.
And you're not going to have to pay for shipping. That's one of the major things. And you know,
it's $8 or $9 right there.
And it's instant gratification. So basically how it works through Scanner Master is you place your order. Let's say you order right after the broadcast, you order the ARC-XT. What'll then happen is our shipping manager will come in the morning and he'll see that order, and then he'll manually, quote unquote, ship it to you, which he just presses a button through our e-commerce system and it electronically ships it to you. So then what'll happen is in your email, you'll have your registration key, key 1 and key 2. The other benefit of ordering it that way, let's say you lose that email and you get a new computer and you say, oh, I got to install ARC-XT on my new device. And then you're like, ooh, where did I put the product key? What you can do is just give us a call, tell them I ordered the ARC-XT from you. We can look up your account and we can resend you the product key. The other great thing too is, you know, you can print that email, put it in your password list if you already have it, you know, the keys. Definitely want to try to keep in track of that. And like I said, you're getting the software right away. And the other tip with this is anytime that you do a download of the software, it's going to go into the demo mode. So what will happen is you'll go up to the Help tab, under Help, then Register, and then enter in key 1 and key 2, which you receive in the email. Hit OK. It'll ask you to reboot the software. Once the software is rebooted, then what'll happen is you'll open the software and you won't get that time-restricted demo. Now, the only time that you would get that again is if you didn't enter in the key correctly.
Right.
And the key is space-sensitive and case-sensitive. So make sure you're putting capitals and lowercase where they should be, and you're not hitting the space bar at the end.
Yeah, and also remember that the key number 2 has got dashes in it. It's got like 2 or 3 dashes. That's part of the key. So people will send either skip the dashes or something like that. The dash is actually part of the key. If we're going to email you that key, copy and paste it. Then you won't have to worry about it.
Yep, and just make sure you're not copying additional spaces, because that'll definitely create some issues. So yeah, this is a very important scanner hint of the week. If you're looking to purchase any of the Butel software, purchase it as a download. It's going to be the quickest, best way. You're going to save on shipping. You're going to receive those product keys electronically. And you're also going to not have to wait for it, anywhere from 3 to 5 business days. You'll get it.
And if you're running the demo mode, there's no need to reinstall.
Nope, just enter in those keys and make sure that you have like if you've got the Pro version, make sure the Pro version's installed. If you've ordered the demo, not the demo, but if you ordered the basic version, you have the basic version, because those keys will not crisscross with one another.
Lee's got a great comment. You might want to pop that up there. Always, when you register it or when you install it, do it when you're in administrator mode. If you right-click on the application that you've downloaded and unzipped, right-click and run as administrator. And when you run the registration, make sure you run it as administrator. That way you know that the key is properly installed. That's very important, and thank you very much, Lee. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it certainly is a good thing right there. So let's continue on with this slideshow presentation here. So the first section of our broadcast is going to be year in review of 2020. And as always, we want to remind you that the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. So let's take a look here. There's been several new products. A few of these have actually put together some videos that are on the Scanner Master YouTube account if you haven't checked it out. If you're interested in any of these products that are on the screen right now, down in the description of our YouTube broadcast, there's links to all of them. So after the broadcast, if you want to take a look at any of these, we're going to spend a few moments, Rich and I, talking about some of these products and how they're beneficial. The one that sticks out the most for me is the 4-scanner power supply AC adapter. This is a blessing.
What a big product that has been for us.
And now this will work on any of the Uniden scanners. It'll also work on the Strasbourg multicouplers as well. So this is definitely something handy if you're a Uniden fan. This will work on any of the mobile radios, anywhere from the SDS 200 all the way down to the 15X. So
Right.
anything in
one
between.
question we get asked on this a lot is it won't work on the Whistler scanners, though.
Yeah, the Whistler scanners, the barrel is slightly different and the pin is different, so it's not going to work on that. But Uniden radios, on any of the base mobile radios, it's going to work fine. Even it'll work on, believe it or not, the 355 N or C or whatever letter it is now. It'll work on that as well. So,
Yeah.
So that's certainly a good product that we had towards the beginning of the year. And REMTRONIX, I'm doing this all out of order. REMTRONIX does it again. Rich, this is an antenna that's certainly a phenomenal one, isn't it?
It is, and the neat thing about it is it's intended to be used as a back of the set antenna, because people were buying the REMTRONIX BNC antenna and then buying the angle adapter and using that on their 536s and their SDSs and stuff. They came up with this one. It's got a built-in elbow, so you can put it at 90 degrees like it is there, 45 degrees, which is kind of halfway, and then you have it straight up. So if you're using it on a handy-talkie, or like a SDS or a 325 or something like that. So it's a great antenna, and you can use it as a portable antenna or as a base antenna. And being a REMTRONIX, that means it works really well on 800 megahertz.
It certainly does. I mean, the antenna works really well on that 800 megahertz band. This is another product that I was able to inquire. So all 6 of these products, there's one product that Rich and I both don't have for the most part.
And one that I really, really want.
Yeah. So the REMTRONIX antenna, splendid antenna. The other thing that was a big hit was the cup call and the desk call. And this was something that was intended for a cell phone and works phenomenally well for scanners. Now, the reasoning behind it is these, when they come out a lot further, so they're able to hold a cell phone, but they have a lot more width on this, so you're able to hold a scanner. I mean, that's the great thing about this device. I mean, a lot of these devices that you see online, usually it's not able to hold a scanner with ease. As you can see here, it's holding a 436. I mean, I'm gonna tip it right now. It's not dropping. So
he's doing it on his radio, not mine.
yeah, well, I know, I trust the product, so it's not going to drop. I mean, the great thing about it is adjustable. As you can see here, you can turn it. So this is the desk call.
I lost your audio there, Jonathan.
This works really well, this desk call. So this is something that I would definitely keep in mind. I think Rich has lost me. Yeah, so this desk call works really great. I would certainly recommend it. The cup call is the same thing. So essentially the cup call, as you can see on the video, you can actually expand the bottom half so it secures tightly in the cup holder in your vehicle. Same exact thing, adjustable. You can turn it. Holds the radio really well. Desk call, cup call, still available through scannermaster.com. Definitely take a look at that. The other thing, too, that's on here that's a really popular device as well, and we've had variations of this, the Uniden GPS kit. This is the most complete kit that we have available now. It has every single component or part that is needed for any one of your Uniden scanners to be able to make it so it'll be able to scan by using GPS. Now, the great thing about it is we've done, through the scanner guys, we've done a complete video going over all the components and parts. I produced, on the Scanner Master YouTube account, a unboxing video, which you can watch the unboxing. You can see all the accessories, what their names are. And then I produced a series of videos that go over which components go with what scanner. So if you've got the BCT15X, we have a video that's going to show you all the components of all the things that are needed. And it's going to show you the names of them and show you how it's all put together. So that's a really cool thing with that. And that works really, really well. Now, the one thing that we don't have, Rich nor I have, is the 16-port multicoupler. I really don't need that. I know Rich has got a whole slew of scanners behind him. Typically, what I do is I have a couple of different multicouplers here in the studio. One's connected to one antenna, one's connected to another. So if you have a whole slew of radios and you're connecting to one antenna, this would be a good option for you. If you're using multiple antennas and you're assigning radios to particular antennas, then doing like a 4-port or an 8-port multicoupler would be the best option. So I know, Rich, this is on your bucket list, isn't that right?
It is. Yeah, I really would like to get one of these because what I'm doing now is I'm actually using 3 devices, which is a passive 4-port multicoupler going to 2 active 8-port multicouplers. It works, but this would work a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, if you're connecting up to one antenna, then this is definitely a good option.
Yeah.
For me, I'm connecting. I have 2 different antenna setups here, although they're temporary. One's an 800 megahertz omnidirectional antenna, and the other one is an all-band antenna, which I'm temporary set up until probably the spring of next year when I'm actually going to put in an outdoor antenna that's permanent. But yeah, I mean, this is for...
We're going to have a tower raising party at Jonathan's house?
Yeah, well, there won't be any towers, that's for sure. I mean, just being able to put together a budget to be able to do this, I have to buy an impact drill that'll go through brick. That's going to be the first thing, and then I have to decide on what antenna I want, then run the coax cable. That's why I haven't done it. I've been in the house, as of February, not February, but actually June of next year will be 2 years in the house. So, yeah, I mean, it's just hasn't been a part of the budget, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But these are all the new products that came out for Scanner Master for 2020. There wasn't any scanners.
No. Well, the SR30, I think, did that come out in 20 or was that in 19?
I don't remember that. I mean, it's not a big
minor blip. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a earth-shattering, new radio. I mean, some pretty good accessories here. This is probably the year of accessories, and it looks like in favor of Uniden. I mean, you're looking at the screen here. You've got the Uniden GPS kit, which was big for that, and then the product that we started carrying, the 4-scanner power supply. That was another Uniden. Good one there.
Yeah, Uniden-centric device, yeah.
Yeah, and then everything else could be based on Uniden or Whistler at that point. The multicoupler, cup call, desk call, the REMTRONIX.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple quick questions that I answered in the chat. Dave asked if the cup call or the desk call would work on an SDS 200 with a large battery. Not really. It'll hold it, but not particularly securely.
Yeah,
if you got the old small battery, it'll work great, but the fat battery is...
Yeah, you look at this, it's going to hold well on something like this. Let me just see if I have...
Yeah, but that kind of the goofy little angle on the back of the SDS 100 does, and we're being totally honest with you, it'll work, but not particularly well.
This is a standard type of scanner. This is the GRE PSR 500, as you can see here. It's just because of anything with a smooth edge on the side is going to work fine. I mean, it's not perfect, but it'll even hold the unication unit.
Yeah.
With the clip on, mind you.
Oh yeah.
It'll hold it because it's got that smooth edge.
Right. On the 325 and 125, it'll hold it with the clip on. It'll hold it better with the clip off. On the 436 and the 396, it's got that stud. It'll work fine with that. Just leave the stud on there, and it'll hold it just fine and dandy. I used it with my 436, and it worked great. I just didn't use the little belt clip on it. That's all.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, these cup call, desk call, if you haven't ordered those, definitely check them out on our website. You can check below the broadcast description. You can see links to all these products. Let's continue on with the broadcast. So this was the year we started having interviews. Marshall Sherrod was our first interview. He's a public safety expert. You can take a look at these interviews on our YouTube channel. So he basically went over a lot of history of North Carolina. Was his subject of his interview.
Yep.
And he'll be joining us again as a guest host, that's for sure, in 2021. We'll have to arrange that. Phil from the Scanner School, he was on last week. He's a two-timer on the show. He's been on twice. Once to talk about the Scanner School, and last week to talk about SDRs. So Phil will be returning to us in 2021 as well. And Lindsey Blanton from Radio Reference. This was a big interview for us. I mean, he's definitely a big interview, a big grab for us. He's the CEO of Radio Reference and Broadcastify. Out of all three interviews, what are the highlights or what do you take away from each one of them, Rich?
Well, each one of them is an expert in their field, in their specific specialty, and they were all great gets. And Marshall has got a great backroom perspective on the radio, the technical ends of it, and why certain types of equipment work and what different types of systems work. He's a systems integrator, so it's kind of like the gory details of how a radio system works, and that was fascinating. And then the next one we did was with Phil the first time out, and then we were with him again last week, and he does the Scanner School, which is a great learning tool for scanners, and kind of doing the sort of the same thing we are in a different tack. And it was and that was a lot of fun the first time out with the Scanner School to learn more about what that's about, and then talking about SDRs, which neither one of us are really big on SDRs. So it was good to talk to somebody who had a lot of experience on that, because we get a lot of questions about that. And then Lindsey, of course, talking about Radio Reference and Broadcastify, you can't talk about the scanner hobby and not deal with Radio Reference. And to get some of the background on how, why, and wherefores of Radio Reference and Broadcastify, of course, which is the streaming platform. So it was, all of them were good, were great interviews, and we hope to get more of them next year with them and with other people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these they're phenomenal. People to have on the show. I mean, a lot of things have changed over the last year with the scanner guys, and this is something that I probably could have created a slide for. We moved from YouTube. We moved from Facebook to YouTube, which was a big, huge move on our part. Moving our whole entire audience over to this platform versus the Facebook. The reasoning behind that is it's easier to search our videos. What happens on Facebook is it would come up on your feed, when the broadcast was new, and then disappear into Never Never Land on Facebook. So with YouTube, everything is archived. You can look through our channel. You can watch any of the broadcasts, whether they're from 2020, and then you're going to have a whole slew of them from 2021 as well. So if there's shows that you want to rewatch, they're easy to find, and they're all available on YouTube. It's a more stable platform. And the other thing too is we changed our streaming software as well, which allows us to bring in guests in here. We could actually have, and we've been entertaining this, possibly doing a panel discussion on the scanner guys, so we can bring in a whole bunch of people to talk scanners. And I know certainly Marshall and Phil will clear the calendar to be able to join us for that. That's for sure. Yeah. So that'll be a good takeaway on that. So some cool stuff with that as well. Unfortunately, with 2020, tail end of 2019, we had some sad news. We lost Paul Opitz. He passed away right at the tail end of December the 28th. And then we actually did a show shortly after his passing to talk about Paul and all of his contributions to the hobby. We talked about him, also the things that people didn't know. And, we are sad to see, this, he passed away at 59 years old. I mean, he left us way too young.
Yeah, and there is nobody bigger in the hobby than Paul. And it's a huge void that is yet to be filled. So, yes. And he was just as well known in the guitar circles as well. He was a very gifted guitar player, and he really enjoyed playing the guitar and such. So he, it wasn't just scanners for him.
Yeah, and he was a huge fan of fine dining. He loved, going out to dinner at a really nice place, having a real good meal. And it's just, it's sad that he left us too soon. But yeah, I mean, that was, part of our 2020 programming. We paid tribute to Paul Opitz of Uniden.
Yeah, that was the first show we did last year, and it was an unfortunate way to have to ring in the new year.
So that was kind of the sad portion of 2020. So we'll continue on with our year review. This is not so sad, but it's we're losing one of the major contributors to our hobby, Universal Radio. They've been servicing the radio community since 1942. That's a lot longer than Scanner Master. So they were one of the original companies. Universal Radio is not going out of business. Basically, the owners are retiring. So it's not, we're shutting our doors, for a bad reason. They're retiring. And Universal is one of the companies that we would typically see at Dayton. The Hamvention, is usually Scanner Master and Universal.
Yeah, and we would refer a lot of our customers that were looking for products that we don't carry, ham radio type stuff. We'd refer a lot of our customers to them, and a lot of times they would refer scanner customers to us because obviously we're the experts on that. And they were good people. I've been in their store several times. I bought a lot of stuff from them over the years. And my wife enjoyed going to the store because they got cats all over the place. So she thought that was great. And, it's going to be sad to see them gone.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a sad thing to see them leave. There's not too many of the original scanner stores, such as Scanner Master and a couple others. I mean, it's now, without giving a plug to our competitors, I could probably count them on one hand at this point.
Yeah, we've been around the longest, so
compared to the other two. So there's basically three companies other than the box store type of companies, and Scanner Master is now the oldest, and then the next not so old, and then one's fairly new on the block. I'm not gonna give them a plug. They don't contribute to this, so I'm not giving them a plug. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah. Buy all your scanners from Scanner Master.
That's for sure. But we're sad to see Universal Radio leave. So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking some of your questions coming up momentarily, but we just want to remind you to post those questions in the chat right now, and we're happy to answer any of these questions tonight. Excuse me. And we want to remind you of our friend over at the Scanner School, Phil. He just dropped his new podcast yesterday, and it's session number 157, Close Call versus Spectrum Sweeper. He put the two technology head-to-head. So he's going to reveal who the winner is. So make sure you check out his podcast at scannerschool.com. And that's scannerschool.com.
And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. They do pretty much the same thing, but they go about it entirely differently. And it's kind of cool. And I to tell you the truth, I haven't seen this particular episode, but I know I'm going to be watching tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, this is definitely a good one to listen to. You can capture the Scanner School podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search out the Scanner School, and this is his latest podcast. His podcasts drop every Tuesday. So make sure you check his website often on Tuesday and check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. And we also want to remind you, if you're in the market for one of these, yes, Unication radios, check out East Coast Pagers, your emergency alert specialist. East Coast Pagers, an authorized Unication dealer and proud to support public safety professionals, businesses, and individuals. So if you're looking to purchase a Unication radio, give them a call at 1-877-231-PAGE or visit their website, eastcoastpagers.com. Now we're at the midway point of the slideshow, so we're going to continue on. So, brings us to frequently asked questions. Yeah. Now, these are things that typically people ask us, whether it be through email, through the chat, through, over the phone. I mean, there's so many questions that we get. We would love to get some of your questions live tonight. Let's take a look at our first question, or actually, it's a comment. Rich, tell us a little bit about this slide here.
Again, there's a little bit more to this one as well. So Dave wrote that his first scanner was a little thing about the size of a cigarette package. He thought it was called the Lucky Tiger or something like that, and he asked if we had ever heard of it. So I remember the Tiger scan, and it was made by Electra, which is pre-Uniden Electra. And it was a little device that it was a 2-channel receiver, had a couple buttons on the top that you scrolled through the channels. And a follow-up email that I had with Dave, he mentioned there was another device he was trying to remember that was about the same size and form factor, but it wasn't an independent receiver. It was a converter that you put next to your AM radio, and you tuned your AM radio to determine what scanner frequency, so it would convert it. And I remember such a device, but I'd be darned if I can remember the name. So I figured I would ask some of you people out there if any of you guys remember that and remember the name of that device. It was a converter that you put next to an AM radio in order to hear scanner traffic through it. So if you know what that device is, let us know so we can get a hold of Dave and let him know.
So let's take a look at our next slide here. And this is a question that we've received through email. Will the Uniden scanner start up when power is applied, such as when you turn on the ignition on your vehicle? Yeah. Depending on the radio. Now, typically most of the radios, as you know, like a 996 or a 15X, it's a knob turn on. So it's going to stay in that on position regardless of what's going on. So for a 996 or a 15X or even an SDS or a 536, if you shut the ignition down And the way it's wired into the vehicle, if it's tied into the ignition switch, when you cut power off the vehicle, it's going to cut power off of that, so it's going to turn it off. Now, the thing to keep in mind, which Rich and I have discussed, at length, with these SD card radios, such as the 536 and the SDS 200, you want to make sure that you turn off the recording feature or the replay feature. Typically, that will be how the SD card would become corrupt. Now, why is that? So let's say, I'm going to give you an example. So let's say your radio had a radio transmission shortly after, you turn off before you turn off your ignition. So what's going to happen is the radio is going to receive that radio transmission, it's going to record it, and then it's going to save it. If it's in the middle of saving that and you go to turn your ignition off, it's going to create an error on that file. And in turn, when you go to restart the car up, you're going to have an SD card error. And that's not going to be good.
Yeah, so if you turn off the replay option, you are drastically reducing the amount of read-write cycles on that SD card. And as such, when you turn it off, you're drastically reducing the possibility of a corruption occurring on your SD card. I have had a 536 in my vehicles for going on 10 years. And since I've turned the replay feature off, I have yet to have an issue with card corruption. Now, with that being said, if you've got an SD card-based scanner in your vehicle, or even if you're just walking around with one, make a spare SD card and keep it with the radio. If you got a handheld radio, tape it on the inside of the battery compartment. If you've got a radio in your car, your vehicle, your truck, just take an extra SD card and leave it in the vehicle someplace, because if you do get an SD card error, even if you take the steps to try to prevent it, you're going to get it when it's actually the most inconvenient. And this way, if you've got a spare card, you're going to be able to replace that card instantly if you do get a card corruption. The other part two of this question is, when you turn off a scanner with a volume knob that has a physical power button, the scanner will typically revert to the same condition it was when you turned it off when you turn it back on. So if the radio was in the scan mode when you turned it off, when you turn it back on, it'll go into scan mode. If it was being held on a specific channel, it'll stay on that specific channel. Let's ask how you turn off the replay and record options. On a Uniden scanner, you go into the menu, and there is going to be a settings feature in the menu, and then there's going to be a replay options. I'm doing this on my SDS 200 right now. And then you go to set replay duration, and then you select off. So go to menu, replay options, or menu settings, replay options, set duration, and then go to off. And when you turn it to off, then it will not record any traffic from your radio onto the SD card, and it really will reduce the amount of read writes to your radio and the possibility of corruption.
Yeah, you definitely want to take the extra steps. If you're going to be abruptly shutting off any of these SD card scanners, and Rich is absolutely right, it's going to happen at the least convenient time. Yeah. I can tell you that I had my 436 with me on a camping trip. This was before we had the SDS 100.
Yeah.
And so I left my laptop at home because I didn't really want to have to carry it. So I had the 436. I'm sitting by the campfire listening to the scanner. It starts beeping at me. So of course I thought I hit the power button to power it off, which I didn't. And then I ended up popping the batteries out, putting the fresh batteries in, and little did I realize that I didn't press the power button and shut it off. Yeah. So I ended up having a corrupted SD card. So this radio for the weekend was down for me, but luckily I carry a Uniden Home Patrol, so I ended up pulling that out of the camper and then listening to that as I was by the campfire. But yeah, definitely carry an extra SD card. That's definitely key. There's one that's in my truck. My wife saw it the other day, and she said, "Oh, what is that? Is that supposed to be there?" I said, "Yeah, that's the backup SD card, just in case anything happens to the radio." I have in my truck. I have the 536, and it's connected to the ignition. So when I shut the ignition off, it'll shut the scanner off. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. When you have.
Yeah. And Nelson's Law says that if you don't have a backup, that's when you're going to need it.
That's for sure.
And if you do have backup, you'll never need it.
What we'll do is we'll kind of jump into some of the questions here. I was talking about doing an antenna install, Dave. That's a very good point. To see if I can rent an impact drill, that would probably be a lot cheaper than buying one. So I think that's definitely something I'm going to take a look at. We have, the funny thing is I got to go. I'm in North Carolina, so I got to go into Charlotte to that Home Depot where they rent tools. So it's a little ways. We had to rent something during the last summer, and it was no big deal. It was a little bit of a drive. I had to go to downtown Charlotte. The Home Depot that's near me doesn't rent tools for whatever reason, but that's definitely a good tip there.
Yeah.
The next question that we have is from Tim in Texas. He would love to buy a G5, but the programming is very difficult. Yes, it's difficult. It is, once you get the hang of it, it is fun. It's basically you're still using radio reference. Radio reference is still a valuable tool, and you're using that, and you're kind of learning a little bit more about radio structure. So it's kind of like programming programming one of these is like programming a two-way radio. You got to know what you're programming in, for sites and talk groups and so on. So it's a little bit more advanced. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, if you've got patience and time, it can be done.
Yeah, it's not really for the faint of heart, but you're right, it can be done. It does require a Windows computer or a Mac computer running Windows, that's for sure. And we do not offer programming services. I think East Coast does, so you can check with them on that. But it's a lot more fun to do your own programming if you can, and it really would give you a lot of good insight on how the system operates and kind of the technical aspects of it. It can be intimidating, so take your time, be patient. You're going to make mistakes. And you're going to be programming it over and over again until you get it right. That's how I did it. So
I mean, the thing that I would recommend, am I a good candidate for doing it? So let's say you've been programming scanners for years through the computer, and you've built a trunking system through Butel software without importing it in, and you've had pretty good luck with that. Then I would say at that point, you may be able to take on programming a unication radio. If you haven't programmed a scanner at all, or all you've had is database-driven scanners, it's going to be eye-opening and probably overwhelming. But if you've been programming scanners through computers, with actually physically building systems, whether it be importing in from radio reference or building them by scratch, or hell, if you're programming them manually through the radio. You can't get any more into it, especially programming a trunk system manually. Yeah. That is tedious.
You're going to have to understand some of the concepts behind trunking. You're going to need to understand control channels and system types and talk group IDs, and you're going to have to understand those concepts. If you understand those concepts, you'll have no problem with it. It's not that hard.
Okay, so this is something that I wasn't sure if it was available yet. I haven't done in a lot of programming with my Unication radio, but if that's the fact, with Unication's desktop software, if it has that radio reference aspect of it, that's going to make it a lot easier, because you're going to be able to pick and choose the things that you're looking to program in, and that's going to be a blessing. It's going to be a huge blessing, but you still have to know a lot about the trunking system, and you also have to know what sites you're looking to monitor. You don't want to program every single site for a statewide system. You want to be able to break it out to the point where, let's say you're listening to, I'm trying to think of a town, Kannapolis, North Carolina. You're going to want to know what site their radios affiliate to, and you make sure that that site is programmed into the radio, because that's going to be the way this radio is going to operate. It's going to be more like a two-way radio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that also applies to scanners as well. When you're creating a favorites list for a scanner on a system, a big statewide system like Viper or Palmetto or Starcom or one of these other big, huge statewide systems, you don't want to put in all 150 sites, because you're going to be spending most of the time checking all those individual sites. You only want to put in the sites that you have a possibility of being able to hear, or the ones that will be useful to you in your area. So find out what sites are going to be in that geographical area that's your target, and put those sites in. Don't worry about the stuff that's 50 or 100 miles away.
That's for sure. Another question that we have here, which is a very good question. He's got the 325 P2, which is the Uniden Bearcat BCD325 P2. That's the latest handheld digital scanner that Uniden has. It's compact and small, just like the 125 AT. So they're about the same size. They're in the same mold and everything. They take two AA rechargeable batteries.
All right. Trivia time here. I'm going to jumble around. Jonathan, you got to tell me instantly which one is the 325 and which one's the 125.
The 325 is on the what is it? It's that one right there. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's got the two color. The way you could tell is the 125 has the two colors. It's got that gray faceplate and then the black body. The 325 is fully black.
All right, John wins the Stump Jonathan show for today.
Yeah, I mean that's because I was thinking of your left or right. I should have just went with faceplate color.
Yeah.
So the 125 AT, it's a lot of technology to run off of two AA rechargeable batteries.
Yeah.
So
the 325 P2.
Yeah, the 325 P2. The 125 is not so bad on the batteries. Right. But the 325 can be a little bit taxing with the two AA batteries. We've mentioned this in previous broadcasts. Whenever possible, plug in.
Yep.
The other thing is, if you're going to be out and about and you're not able to, let's say you're using this for aviation monitoring, or you're trackside with a scanner for rail fanning, or you're going to be sitting in one location and you're not able to plug in, get one of those battery packs.
Yeah.
Plug into that. Run the batteries off of that.
Yep. Keep a couple AA batteries in your pocket. I go plane watching all the time at the local airport. They got a platform where I can stand and watch aircraft. And I take the 125. I instinctively grab two AA batteries and stick them in my pocket before I get out of the car and bring them with. It's just that it's that much easier for me. But yeah, the 325 is kind of a battery hog. Keep a couple extra batteries. Use one of those external battery packs. Since the 325 and most scanners these days are USB powered, those backup batteries with the USB cable, USB port on them work great. And they'll power that radio for a month.
Yeah, they work really well. The other thing, too, is just the things that will be able to reduce down the battery wear and tear is turn off the backlight. Don't run that all the time. Also, reduce down the volume of the radio. That's going to help as well. The other thing, too, is if you're out and about, earbuds, or you can get the scanner blaster. You'll have that on notch 3, and it'll be plenty loud enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll hear it while the train is going through your living room.
Yeah, so that's definitely a couple of tips that I would agree with Rich. The 325 is a bit of a battery hog because it's just a lot of technology it's running. The 125
it's only 2 cells. I actually did a test. I compared my 325 with my 436. And my 436 got about half again as much battery life as the 325 did with a full set of batteries, which makes sense because that's got 3 cells versus 2, and it does so it's got about the same draw as a 436, but there's only 2 batteries in it to keep the size down. So yeah, the batteries aren't going to last that long because there's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, if there was additional batteries in there, it probably would last a lot longer.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a thing that's for the 125. Still, it's a phenomenal radio because of the size factor. I mean, it's small and compact. You look at something like the 436, which is about the same size as the SDS. Yeah. It's this is a full size radio versus a small compact radio, as Rich is showing. Clip on your shirt or put it in your shirt pocket. It's very easy to fit into there. It's small and compact. It's easy to throw in into a bag, whether it be a camera bag or whatever it may be. It's easy and small and compact. So that's definitely the thing that's going with that. And then use rechargeable batteries whenever possible. Carry some extra sets, and then also carry some alkaline batteries as well. If you're going to be out all day or whenever possible, if you're sitting in the vehicle, plug it into there via the USB. If you're at the house, plug it in. If you're by a wall outlet, plug it in.
And the one thing with the 325 and the 436 and the 125, since we've been talking about that a lot tonight, is that when you have it plugged into outboard power, when the radio is on, it will run the radio off the outboard power. When the radio is off, it'll start charging the battery unless you tell it not to. So if you do have it plugged in outboard power, to be safe, keep the rechargeable batteries in it, and that way it will, when it recharges the battery, it's not going to be a problem. If you're using non-rechargeable batteries, make sure you turn the charge off when you're plugged into outboard power. And remember, when you turn the radio off, it'll start charging the battery automatically. The SDS 100 is the only one of these that has a setting where you can turn on the radio with the power cord and charge a battery at the same time. And if you've got a WS1040, the way you determine whether or not you're going to charge your batteries is by the battery holder. The black battery holder is for alkalines, and the yellow battery holder is for rechargeable batteries. So make sure you're using the appropriate holder for your batteries. There you go.
Yeah, I only have the alkaline holder, and the difference in between, if I can show this, is the rechargeable yellow Cradle is going to have an extra prong. This one only has the positive and negative. The other battery Cradle will have an extra prong, which will allow you to charge the batteries.
Yeah, if you take a look inside the battery holder of a WS1040, there's 3 connectors.
Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if we can get in there, but you can see it, the silver right there.
That's the same for the 651, the Pro 106, and the PSR 500.
Yeah, so that's definitely key thing with the even me, look, I don't have any of the Whistler handheld product lines, so that's why I have the 536 to show. I mean, I didn't end up doing a Whistler because it's the same thing as a PSR 500.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we can discuss there. Did we go over soft keys?
No, we didn't.
All right, so let's
we can talk about that. Yeah, absolutely.
So with many of the radios, now we mentioned with the physical switch of a lot of radios have a physical switch, so it'll stay on the on or off setting. The only time, now this is something interesting with the 536 and the SDS 200. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So you can actually put an auto turn off after a period of time on your SDS 200 and your 536. So let's say you have this on your nightstand and you fall asleep. you don't want your spouse, saying, hey, can you shut that scanner off? You can set these radios to an auto shut off. Now, what happens in this case is you set it to 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on whatever setting you want to put it on. It will turn off the scanner, and the physical switch will stay in the on position. It's not going to magically turn itself off. In order to rectify that, when you wake up in the morning, you want to use the radio, you're going to turn the radio off, even though it's already off, and then you're going to turn the switch and turn it on. Now, soft keys are what the SDS has.
Yeah, or the 325 or the 125, the 436. Most of the handhelds, with the exception of the WS-1040, have the soft keys. And that means you actually press the button and hold it for a second or so to turn the radio on. And so it's not a... And then that way when you power the radio off, it doesn't automatically turn on. So that's the big difference. And that one, the radio, I think will probably revert to what it was doing before, but it will revert to what it was doing before. But again, you can't just turn it on and off with the ignition.
Yeah, you have to physically do that. I've had the Uniden Home Patrol is once that's been shut off, you have to repower that back on.
Yeah, but I think, let's see, if you take the batteries out, here, this is my 125, I take the battery out, and if I put the battery back in, it does not automatically come back on. So
no, it has to be told to do what's needed.
Yeah. So that is one disadvantage of using a portable radio as your mobile radio, is you're still going to have to turn the thing on when you turn the car on. It won't come on automatically like a 996 will.
So this is a question that we get a lot from Ron. For heaven's sake, for the cost of the 325 and the 436, why does Uniden not include the USB AC adapter for the house current? Probably doesn't cost them at all, about $1.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different arguments to this. A lot of people have a lot of these USB AC or DC adapters kicking around. They have smartphone devices, they have other devices. Yeah. That's probably some of the reasoning behind it.
Right. When you buy a new iPhone or a new Android and you trade in your old phone, you always keep your old chargers. So you end up, these things tend to accumulate. I got a drawer full of these darn things. And if they came with the scanners, I'd have 2 drawers full of them. I'd have a couple scanners here and there. So yeah, they tend to accumulate. You put 2 of those in a drawer, and you come back in a week, and now you got 6 of them, and you don't know where the other 4 came from.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason why. With the SDS 200, it's a little bit more ampage than your standard 5-volt 1 amp. It's a little bit more ampage, so the SDS 100, comes with the adapter. For the 325, the 436, the 125 AT, the adapter, AC USB adapter wall wart is something that you can either use one that you already have, or you could purchase it relatively cheap.
Yeah. So for the most part, all the scanners except for the SDS 100 can use the standard 1 amp, 5 watt wall adapters that come with most iPhones, older iPhones that is nowadays, and comes with most of the Androids. Those are the little ones that are about a 1 square inch, and you probably have a couple of those. The SDS 200 does use higher current, so it uses a little bit larger one. If you've got an iPad, if you know what those iPad chargers are like, they're a little bit larger. Those are, those will work on your SDS 100. The older, smaller ones will actually work on the SDS 100, but it won't provide a lot of current for charging. So that's why they're all the same volts. They're all 5 volts, but the small ones are 1 amp. The larger ones are 1.5 or 2 amps to give more wattage.
Yeah, and your SDS will work on one of those lower voltage ones. I'm actually using my SDS.
Yeah.
It will work, but it's, if you're using it to charge the batteries, it's going to take a heck of a lot longer.
Right.
So that's a lot of the key thing is the higher ampage is going to make it so it charges those batteries relatively quickly.
And another thing that pops up once in a while in the same vein is sometimes people will plug into one of these chargers and they'll get a low voltage warning. And that's typically not so much the charger if it's a real Apple charger or a real, one of a good one instead of one of the cheap knockoffs. But if it's a good charger, a lot of times you might be using the wrong cable. A USB cable, as long as it's got the right ends, will normally work. But some of the cheaper cables have much thinner wires in them and can't provide enough current to effectively run and or charge the radio. So if you're getting a low current warning, try using the cable that came with the radio and a decent USB charger. One of those two things is almost always going to be the problem.
Okay, yeah, that's for sure. We'll dive into the questions again. It looks like Jason bought a Watson 901. It's arriving today. He's hoping it works well with his SDS or his 396 XT. Well, the good thing about it is he's going to have his SMA to BNC adapter. Well, that's definitely key. I mean, if this was an SMA antenna, he would have an issue. It has that lipped ridge on his SDS 100. And then the same thing somewhat for the 396. Still going to need the adapter, but it doesn't have that ridge on it. So yeah, make sure you have your SMA to BNC adapters for both radios. Yep. Should work fairly well. This is one of these antennas that works really well on military air and civilian air. So if that's what you're monitoring with either one of these radios at the given time, it's going to work fairly well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 901 is a great antenna. I had one and I gave it to a friend of mine and I never got it back. And I've been missing it ever since. So it does work really well on aviation bands.
Yeah.
There was a question from Art at 5 after. He bought a 125 for air comms and say, wow, works better than his 996. So we talk about the 125 almost every show on how well it works for railroads and aviation. And it is awesome on both. It works really, really, really well. And if you don't know how to program the radio, you can get started right away by popping it into service search.
Yeah, I mean, that works really. I mean, the 125, as we mentioned, is the transportation scanner. For aviation, for railroads, for marine traffic, it is the scanner to take a look at for transportation.
Absolutely. Joe wrote it 20 minutes after. He said he got home and his second shirt was in the mailbox. So great, they are arriving. So I'll be watching for my hat. Should be here tomorrow. Everything takes an extra day to get here to where I'm at. Hopefully my hat will be here tomorrow. But I'm sure everybody's aware that the post office is in near meltdown conditions right now, with a triple threat of the election, with all the ballots going in and out, all the extra packages being sent because of the COVID stuff, and being Christmas time, the post office is delayed on a lot of packages. So if you've ordered anything that's being delivered by USPS, don't be surprised if it's late, and sometimes they're taking a week or 10 days. So don't be aware of that. UPS seems to be weathering the storm pretty well. I'm not quite sure about FedEx because we very rarely use them, but UPS is doing really good. Post office is not.
Yeah, John asked a really good question about the the new AOR scanner, if we've laid eyes on that or actually done anything with that. I know I haven't.
I have not, and I'm not sure which one he was talking about. We did talk about the AR 7400 last week a little bit. As far as I know, they're not in production yet. They're kind of a pre-production demonstrator at one of the trade shows in Japan. It looks like a fascinating little radio. It's got four VFOs in it, so you can listen to four channels at the same time. Not scan four channels, but physically listen to four channels at the same time. It's got four tuning dials, four displays, four speakers. It's basically four receivers in one box. It's the same size as the DV1 box, that square, about yay big, and so it's about a little bit shorter than the SDS 100, but a little bit wider, and it's got like that same desk set. So it looks like a great radio. It's not available yet anywhere, much less here in the U.S. So nobody's actually had a chance to play with it yet, but it does look like it's going to be an interesting toy.
Yeah, I would definitely say the key word there is radio versus scanner. So it's not a full-fledged scanner. I mean, mostly all AOR's equipment is a receiver, professional receiver. Yeah. I mean, if AOR would love to send, this new device to Rich and myself, by all means, drop us an email. We'll give our addresses, and you can email us right there, AOR. So we would love to try this out and see how well it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I played with the DV1 for a while, and I keep on watching. It's too expensive for me to invest on one new, and they wouldn't let me keep the one I had. They made me send it back. The DV1 was an interesting radio. The neat thing about that one is it does almost every digital mode you can think of: NXDN, DMR. What's that stuff that the hand's using? D-Star.
D-Star,
and all kinds of different digital modes, just about any digital voice mode you can think of. So, and it's got a great big knob for tuning. I like to do a knob twirl, and I do that with my 8500. So they do make neat radios. They're highly sensitive. They're poor as scanners, but they're great as receivers.
Yeah, so I would say that new AOR radio is not a comparison to the SDS because it's not a full-fledged scanner by any means. So that's not a fair comparison. The new AOR radio versus the SDS 100, where the SDS is a full-fledged scanner. I could tell you
totally different applications.
I can tell you, I was using last night. I was using the SDS 100. I have in the bedroom. I have a home patrol there. So the home patrol works pretty well. So what I did is I brought the SDS into the bedroom. Mind you, it has a rubber duck antenna on it.
Yeah.
And I just put in the zip code and let it roll. And I was picking up 2 or 3 counties away with a rubber duck antenna inside the house. Mind you, it's a lot of digital trunking around here, so the sensitivity and the voice audio quality is crazy on the SDSs for the digital.
Well, see, where I live, our counties are about the size of small countries, and and I live in the 4th largest county in the country by geography ways, and it's it takes me 3 days to get from this to the other side of the county. So it's very difficult for me to hear stuff outside my home county. I can sometimes pick up Yavapai, which is 30 miles that way. You'd be surprised at how well you can do with a rubber duck antenna, especially in a more urbanized area like where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm outside of Charlotte by quite a ways. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I'm in between 2 radio markets. If people understand radio, signals where it kind of, once you're outside of a certain area, the Charlotte radio stations kind of start drifting out, and then the other radio market kind of drifts in. Just alone from if I'm in the town that I live in, there's 2 country stations that are in North Carolina and in Charlotte, and then there's 2 country stations in the Triad area, which is Raleigh in that area. So I can hear 4 country stations, in my town. Usually that's not the case, and the 2 of them are iHeartRadio, one in Charlotte and one in the Triad area. So that's how far outside of Charlotte I am. I'm able to pick that up. But
I mean, you're able to pick up broadcast radio out there. I get in my neighborhood, and I get in the car, and I have to drive 5 minutes before I can hear any radio stations.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about being sandwiched in between major markets, and that's how it was for me in Massachusetts as well. I was in between the Boston market, the Providence market, and then what little of a market there was on Cape Cod. Being able to hear the different areas. Another question that we kind of got from Les, I'm not too sure if we addressed it. What happens during a power failure? He's mentioning these radios that have the SD cards. Now, keep in mind, it's the luck of the draw. Depending on what's going on with your radio when it loses power, you may not have a corrupted SD card when you restart the radio. It's all like you're rolling the dice. It's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. And
and you really don't know until you try it. So all you can do is try to mitigate the possibilities.
Yeah. So the thing is if you lose the power and the radio wasn't doing anything to the SD card, likely you're not going to have a corrupted card. But if it was in the middle of doing something when the power went out, then you're possibly going to have it.
Yeah, and that's why we do mention, and we stress this all the time, is if you're not using the replay option, turn it off. It's just going to cause you problems down the road. Even if you studiously turn the radio off politely, is what the term is. If you turn it off properly or politely every time, the power blips. You accidentally unplug the cable. You have it plugged into an outlet with a wall switch. All those kind of things. There's 1,000,001 reasons why that could happen to you. So try to remember to turn it off properly, but mitigate it by turning off the replay if you're not using it.
All right, so let's take a look at another power question. This is like the power hour. Would you recommend a surge protector for the scanner, and what type? I mean, surge protectors are definitely handy, but is it necessary? What do you think, Rich?
I don't know if it's so much a necessary thing. To tell you the truth, I very rarely use them other than to get more outlets. I have all the scanners in my cabinet are on a big 12-volt power supply, so that provides a good 12 volts, nice, smooth 12-volt power. It's a 30 amp Astron power supply, so it's got plenty of oomph for all that. But the couple of scanners that I do have plugged into the wall, I've never used power or surge protectors for anything other than as more outlets or easier access to outlets. It couldn't hurt. Definitely couldn't hurt. And if there is a power surge, it might help protect them. But it's one of those things. Like I say, it's not going to hurt anything. So
that's for sure. So that's certainly a great question there. Let's see what else we've got here.
How about the Trainmaster thing at 43 after?
Yeah, so that's definitely another good question there. Have you guys done any mobile setup shows? That's something that we should definitely do.
Yeah, we'll put that on our list of shows. We've done a couple picture shows where there's viewers have sent in pictures of some of their mobile setups. But we can definitely do that. I've posted pictures of my mobile setups at Radio Reference over the years, and
we've seen it here too.
We have? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's just one of many. And so if you've got pictures of your mobile or your base setup, send them to us. Well, Jonathan will put up the email address, and we will be sure to feature those on one of our future shows. The email address is thescannerguys@gmail.com. That's the scanner guys. Guys, there's two of us at gmail.com.
Yep, thescannerguys@gmail.com, as it's shown right on the screen. If you're looking for support questions, don't email that address. Because I'm not monitoring 24/7, and then I see it, and then I end up having to forward it to support@scannermaster.com. So make sure for technical questions, don't send them there.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't monitor it 24/7, and we don't want you to be upset with us, because, we didn't answer your question right away. We, unfortunately, this is a small portion of my life, the Scanner Guys show. So, I mean, if this was a full-time gig, I'd monitor the email all the time. And if you want to check out our website as well, you can definitely visit thescannerguys.weebly.com. thescannerguys.weebly.com. So let's...
or if you're from Chicago, it would be the Scanner Guys.
And what else is there?
Mark had a question. Does the Home Patrol 2 have the same replay option as the 536?
It does have a replay, but you can also disable it on there, I believe, right?
Tell you the truth, I've never tried it, but I think you can.
I haven't used it. I mean,
I haven't used it either, but I'm sure you can. Let's see here. Replay. It's got to be in the settings there someplace. I'm sure you can. To tell you the truth, I just have never. Replay options. It's under advanced menu, and you can go 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240. Yep, it just brings you back to 30. So apparently, there's no way to actually turn off the replay in the Home Patrol.
Yeah, no way to turn that off, that's for sure.
Yeah, there is actually. Let your batteries run down, and it'll turn off the replay option automatically when the batteries are below a certain level. So
it'll also, yes, and that just reminds me too, if you're running strictly external power and you don't have the batteries in the unit, the replay feature will not work.
Right, yeah, turn the batteries out, that'll turn off the replay.
Yeah, because I've had, in my truck, I've had an SDS, not an SDS, but a Home Patrol in the truck before, and I had the batteries out of it, and of course it disabled the replay.
Yeah. So that's I don't know why they didn't set it up so you could turn it off automatically, but
Now you got to remember that this is the first of the Home Patrol series scanners, so they've added and updated a little bit more since then.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry at 57 after wrote, "Is there any way to scan talk groups on the TRX? He likes the whole feature on the 436." So neither one of us are real big on the TRX scanners. I've got one. I don't use it that often. I'm mostly a Uniden guy, but you can create your own scan list on the TRX 1 and 2 scanners and have just the talk groups that you want. So you can do that. And as far as holding on an individual talk group, you can do that as well by just pressing the manual button and going to that talk group. They do work a little bit differently, but to get into the nuts and bolts of it, there's more to it than that. But yeah, you can scan just the talk groups, and you can hold it on a specific talk group.
Let's see what else we have here.
Looks like Dave fried his 396 XT a week ago. Plugged in the wrong tip. The 396 was one of the last Uniden handheld scanners that didn't have USB on it. So when it was replaced by the 325, which does have USB power, which is much less likely to have power problems because you don't have to worry about voltage because USB is always 5 volts.
The other, go ahead.
No, the 396 uses a 6-volt power connector, but one of those small barrel connectors, and it's center pin positive. So, I mean, you can get away with a 7.5-volt adapter if you've ever had one like that, but make sure that you use the proper voltage and the proper polarity. It's center pin positive. That makes a big difference.
Now, the thing that I would recommend to any of you that have some of the older radios or you have multiple manufacturer brand radios, you want to get one of those label makers. The great thing about the label maker is you can label which scanner that power adapter belongs to, and you can also flag the barrel end of it as well. So you'll see at the very end of the cord, you'll see BCD 396. So you know that that belongs to your 396. So that's why, and the good thing about flagging the connector end on the scanner side and labeling the plug end on the other side. So if you have to unplug it, you know which one you're unplugging. And on the other end, you know, okay, so this is the wire for the 396 versus all the other. I mean, if you're like Rich and I, you've got a couple of radios, you're snaking those wires up your desk or wherever it may be. You want to make sure that you're plugging in the right thing into the right spot.
And whenever you buy anything with a wall wart and you got one of those little label makers, put a label on that wall wart for what that particular device is. It's for your portable vacuum, your Bluetooth device. It's for your scanner. It's for your whatever device it is. Because you end up with these wall warts ending up in a junk box someplace. And like, what the heck is this thing from? And it doesn't have a brand name on it. You're like, okay, well, geez, I don't know. It's just a wall wart, and you totally forget what it's for. Put a label on there, and 5 years from now, when you pull that wall wart out of a box, that was for my old dustbuster, which I threw that out 10 years ago.
Yeah, and then you can start cleaning out some of the junk drawer.
Yeah, and if you know what it was for, you can decide to get rid of it or not. Because when you go through your junk drawer and you throw that thing away, and as soon as that garbage truck is going down the street, that's when you're going to realize, oh, I needed that. I threw it away. Oh, man, it's gone. Been there, done that. And I've had to go out to the store and buy stuff that I've thrown away.
Well, this is a new question in the COVID era. Since the holidays, going through the holidays, what are things that, we can program into our scanners for New Year's Eve? Typically, if there's any other New Year's Eve events in the large cities or towns in your area, I would recommend, programming special ops, tactical channels, things like that to be able to monitor the police details and fire details. But since we're in the COVID area where there's social distancing, a lot of these events are virtual or not going to have public there. There's probably not going to be much of a police or a fire presence there. So things that you probably would want to monitor like you do every year. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that go out on the holidays and they do drinking and driving. Yeah. So there's going to be some details out there that are going to be, patrolling for that, or they're going to be setting up roadblocks to be able to make sure that people are not under the influence. So you may hear some of that during the holidays, but as for New Year's Eve stuff, there's not going to be very much this year, I don't think.
Yeah, in my area of Arizona, we typically have a fireworks display on New Year's Eve, and I think they're not doing that this year. They didn't do the fireworks for the 4th of July in my area as well. So, a lot of the outdoor stuff obviously parties and stuff like that are going to be canceled. But as far as listening to stuff, now I happen to know where Ray lives, and in his area, he can't hear the police since they're encrypted. So you're going to want to start listening to other police channels. for listen to some of the old channels, because if there are any events, they might they start using some of the old channels again as a go-to channel or as a car-to-car channel and stuff. The fire channels he can listen to out there, they're going to be busy on New Year's. The state police out there, if you get a digital scanner, you can listen to the state police in his area. And they're going to be busy because even with COVID, there's going to be people out there drinking and driving, and they're going to cause accidents, and they're going to be DUI arrests and everything else like that. So it's basically just going to be a busy night for everybody, which is what it usually is. It's just not going to be quite as busy this year, I would presume.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, this is going to be an unusual, New Year's Eve. People usually have large parties and all that, and that's not going to really happen. I mean, for the most part, I don't have a large family by any means. It's just going to be my wife and I, for Christmas. And then if my dad, stops over, I mean, he won't be here for long, and it'll probably be just talking to him outside, social distance. And that's going to be about it. I mean, this has just been one strange year. But yeah, I mean,
it's going to be a FaceTime Christmas for us and the kids. So
yeah. But yeah, the thing is any events out there, monitor those secondary channels. Even some of the highway department channels can sometimes be used as operations for smaller cities or towns where they're not using a trunk system and they don't have additional licenses for additional frequencies, where there may not be any activity, on that channel at night. They may use that channel if they have capability to it. Some of you are actually going to get a snowstorm. So the highway department's going to be a good thing to listen to. I guess apparently in the Northeast, they're going to get some snow. So the highway department will be a good thing to listen to during, I think it's supposed to go Thursday, Friday. I mean, you guys have already gotten dumped in the Northeast already with snow already, so I'm sure you're going to get another blanket of snow. So yeah, program in the highway department. That's definitely going to be some interesting listening, especially as some of these guys are working extended hours. They tend to get a little bit more goofier on the radio. So you might have some entertaining listening there.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Les says he's running his 436 from his laptop. If your laptop or your computer obviously are going to have USB ports, if it has a yellow USB port, use that one for your scanner, because that one will provide more power, and oftentimes will also provide power when the computer is off. So check that on your computer. Most of the time, if they have a yellow USB port, it provides a little bit higher current and will usually provide a power when the computer is turned off. So not all computers do that, but check that, and that might be a viable thing. Also, computer monitors. I have monitors on my desk, and they have USB ports on the side for power only. So I've got a USB powered desk lamp plugged into one. I've got my SDS 100 plugged into this one, and my Home Patrol plugged into that one. So, or my Home Patrol 2. So I'm using the USB ports on my monitors as power sources, and it works great. Ron says, in case you're sending a scanner to Uniden for repair, someone he knows sent one in on the 23rd of November. It was supposed to ship out today. It's still there. Uniden repair is like a lot of other places. They've had personnel issues due to COVID. And so some of the repairs have gone out right away. Some of them have taken longer. So with everybody else, be patient, and they'll get you taken care of.
Yeah, it's just, and the other thing too is just, they get, just like our programming department, we'll get all caught up, and then we'll get this massive wave of scanners. And, people, typically with ScannerMaster, we're working at ScannerMaster for over a decade. We would typically get a surge of mail-in programming Once the weather started to change, it got a little bit cooler, and people started spending a little bit more time indoors, and they want to be able to get out the scanner and start listening because they're spending some more time at home and they're looking for something to listen to. So yeah, I mean it comes in waves, so that's
we're
definitely
going to have another surge in about 2 weeks too. So
yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. A lot of people get scanners, whether it be from us or they get it from another company. I mean our we're known as the experts, and we're quite dependable when it comes to programming. So a lot of people seek us out when it comes to programming, and we program those scanners whether they're bought from us or from somebody else.
yeah. So that's another thing. If you buy a scanner and you need it programmed, call us. Even if you bought the scanner elsewhere, we can help you out with programming. If it's a Home Patrol or other SD card based scanner from either Whistler or Uniden, we can send you an SD card with all that programming on the SD card, and you don't have to send the radio in. And that's going to save you a lot because you don't have to ship the radio to us. We don't have to ship the radio back to you. So you're going to save yourself a boatload of money. It's $59.95, and that includes one county. And if you want additional counties, they're $20 extra. And it's a great thing. If you've got a non-zip code scanner like a 325 or a 996, you can send that into us for programming. You'll have to actually send the radio itself. We would do the programming and then send it back to you. So we can't do programming on those scanners. If you're not sure if we can program the scanner or if that scanner will work in your area, give us a call during business hours. We'll look it up and let you know that, go ahead and send it in. We can take care of it for you. Or, no, you've got the wrong scanner. Or, no, you can't use any scanner, or whatever the situation is if you're unsure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When in doubt, give us a call. I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to be the first thing we're going to do. Let's say you do have a scanner and you're looking to get it programmed. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, yeah, sure, we can program it for you. But did you purchase this from us? And if you tell us no, and then what we're going to do is we're going to assume that you went on the competitor's website and just placed an order blindly. We want to make sure before you go through the process of sending it in to us that it's going to work for what you want to monitor. I mean, there could be a couple of different things. It could be the wrong scanner for the market. You may need some of the other digital formats. Mm-hmm. It could be encrypted for what you wanted to monitor. We don't want to waste your time. I mean, that's the thing. Time is money in this sense, and it's going to cost you money to send it to us, and we want to make sure that we prevent that. So, when in question, give us a call.
Yeah, a lot of times people will buy an analog-only scanner like a BCT15, and they live in an area that uses digital, or they buy a WS1040, which is digital but phase 1 only, and they live in an area that uses phase 2, or they're in an area that uses DMR or NXDN or Pro Voice. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So if in doubt, call us up.
Yeah, and that's a good word of advice for you there.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else we got here.
And do you see Tim's comment about the hour 30?
What time?
Past? Nine after?
Yeah, 9 after. Let's see here.
There you go.
I haven't used many of the ICOM or the AOR because we don't carry them. We at one point we did carry the AOR, and it was very slim inventory, so trying to get a demo unit to play with was virtually impossible because I would have to take one out of inventory, and we didn't have very much inventory of them.
Yeah, I've played with some ICOM radios. I've not tried the R30 yet. I've seen it, I've held it, I've caressed it, but I've not had a chance to spend a lot of time with it. It's a neat radio. It's not a scanner like he says there. It's a communications receiver. So ICOM and AOR make really good receivers, but they are very poor scanners.
Yeah, they're not.
They don't do trunking for one.
Yeah, just like what John posted with the AOR here. That's still technically not a scanner. It's not anywhere near anywhere near what the SDS can do scanner wise.
Right.
That's the thing with the AOR and ICOMs. They're receivers. So they don't really fit in the scanner category because they don't do all the functionality of a scanner. Especially with this day and age with trunking and the way it operates, the way it scans, the way it monitors. It's a totally different beast.
Absolutely. At 7:18, Lacey writes asking us what we think about the SR30C, and
I haven't held.
If you like the BC-75 XLT, you'll love the SR30 because it's pretty much the same darn thing.
Yeah, I would probably say the 125 AT for a couple bucks more. You get a little bit more of a scanner. You get PL tone capability. You also get an alpha tag display. What that means is a text display. So you'll be able to program in the frequency and also program a text tag on the screen. So you'll be able to see
channel name. Yeah.
You'll be able to see, that name. So you're not looking at, with this radio, you program the frequency, and that's what you see on the screen. So if you don't know what the frequency is of who it belongs to, you're going to be, who is that? With the 125 AT, it'll show the channel name, and it'll also show the frequency. So there'll be no question about about that whatsoever.
Yeah. Basically, the SR30C is a 500-channel version of the 75 XLT. Mm-hmm. They even share the same product code. So it's just upgraded. My guess is that they ran out of some of the parts for the SR30C or for the 75 XLT, so they weren't able to make a new production run when they were running low on them. So they came out with the SR30C. We're still trying to figure out the nomenclature. So
yeah,
I think the SR stands for scanner radio, and the 30 stands for absolutely nothing. And the C stands for cool. I don't know.
Conventional. I think that's what
conventional. There you go.
Yeah, that's what we were speculating. Believe it or not, we talk about scanners even off the show.
Yeah. And this is one of the ones we've spoken about. It's like trying to figure out. It's just like, if I had any hair, I'd be pulling it out to try to figure out how it came around. So. Right after that, Ron said that on some of the Uniden handheld scanners, if you tap the volume knob down, you'll see the battery voltage on the upper right part of the screen display. So that is it's a great thing to tell what your battery voltage is. So make a note of what your battery voltage is when you have brand new batteries in there. It should be something like 4. If you've got a 396, it should be someplace around 4.5. If you've got 3 cells, if you've got a 2-cell radio, it should be right around 3-ish, unless you're using rechargeable batteries. All right, so here's another thing. Normal AA batteries, alkalines, are rated at about 1.5 volts. And a brand new AA alkaline battery will actually put out about 1.6 or 1.7 volts. That little bit extra doesn't hurt anything. And a rechargeable battery, nickel metal hydride or nickel cadmium, they will typically put out about 1.2 to 1.2.5 or 1.25 volts. So you're going to get you're going to get a little bit lower voltage on rechargeable. So if you have a pair of rechargeable batteries in there fully charged on, say, a 325, it should show about 2.5 volts, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower when the batteries are fully charged. If you've got alkalines, it should show about 3.1 volts on brand new alkaline batteries. If you've got a 3-cell radio like a 436, the battery voltage is going to be a little bit higher. It's going to be about 4.5 or 4.6 for alkalines, and about 3.75 for rechargeable batteries. And again, it's going to be plus or minus a little bit. And like I say, when and like what Ron wrote, if you have the radio on and you press that volume knob down, you'll see what the battery voltage is. It'll be displayed there for a couple seconds, and then it'll go away. And that'll be in the upper. So when I see the voltage is listed there.
Yeah, it's hard for us to see.
There.
It's still got a reflection.
There it is. So this is showing 2 point something, 2.68, and I got two AA batteries on there. So it should be about 3 volts for brand new batteries. So these are not brand new batteries.
That's really cool thing, Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. We appreciate that. Let's see here. Joe wrote at about 54. We skipped over a little bit. The same battery holder that's in your PSR 500 or your WS 1040 started out in the Pro 96. Mm-hmm. So the Pro 96 was made for Radio Shack by GRE, who also made the PSR 500 and the Pro 106 and the Pro 651. And then when Whistler took over, they reintroduced it as the WS 1040. They all use that same black and yellow battery holder set. So if you've got one of those older radios and you need a new battery holder, you can get them from the Whistler website. Unfortunately, we don't sell them here, but you can get them from there. I've referred a lot of customers that have a Pro 96 looking for a battery holder to get them from there. All righty, so let's see here. And Les is in Toronto. They're in another lockdown until the end of January. So there's going to be a lot more of that going around.
Yeah, I mean, especially with, you're not going to get out of this until a good percentage of the population is vaccinated. This is going to be quite a long haul through 2021 as well, with just the coronavirus, and as it mutates as well, we're going to see different. From what I'm understanding, there's going to be different types of this virus going around, and it's going to be quite an interesting year for us. So wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask.
That's right. This is sign language for wearing a mask, by the way. So let's see here. Special event stuff. Listen to your EMA channels. EMA stands for Emergency Management Agency. They used to call that Civil Defense, and now it's EMA. And there's another term that they used to use for that as well. But yeah, Civil Defense, ESDA, Emergency Services and Disaster Agency, and now it's Emergency Management Agency. So those channels are out there. They're not police, they're not fire, they're kind of sort of in between, and they are more active in some areas than they are in others, but they will help out at fire calls or big scenes with traffic direction, as well as be responsible for an overall emergency management situations. Sometimes they're a separate agency, sometimes they're part of the police department. Another interesting thing which they have out in the Northeast, which as a Midwesterner I could not wrap my head around, is something called fire police. I don't think you had that in Massachusetts, but that drove me nuts trying to figure out what that was all about. So apparently what they are, Jonathan's got his hair going again. So you got to shave your head like I do. You don't have that problem.
So the fire police.
Yeah. So apparently this is something that's big in like New York State and I think Pennsylvania as well. And basically what they do is traffic direction at fires and crash scenes. So they have authority to direct traffic. I don't think they have any type of arrest authority or anything like that, but a lot of these small communities have fire police, and they're just out there to take care of traffic direction and and watching the scene at fire calls, which, it relieves the the civil police from having to do those type of things. I suppose it's a great thing, and it's a great way to help volunteer for the community. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Let's see here. Okay, lots of people about the weather. Jonathan, your dog is texting you.
What dog is texting me?
I don't know. So Dave says your dog was texting you. So I think he heard some barking in the back. See, Jonathan can't hear what's going on in his back.
No, I can hear it. Well, no, I had, believe it or not, my stepdaughter clearly doesn't watch the broadcast because she's sending text messages about this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, I'm live.
Busy.
I mean, if you knew that, you'd be watching. But, I guess no interest. It's like,
no,
I don't think
my wife won't watch the show. She's right there. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, if other people in my life were doing, something like this, I would want to watch it just to see what it was all about. But whatever.
I tried to get my sister to watch it. She said, "I'm not going to watch that stuff." I think she used a different word for it, but yeah.
Yeah. So,
Alicia asked us if there's going to be a show on Wednesday, the 6th of January. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's on the 6th?
Yeah. I don't know, but we'll be here.
Yeah,
I mean, every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, unless the boss tells us not to do it anymore.
Yep. As long as he's paying, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. A lot of people are getting storms. We are going to have. It's going to be 72 on Christmas Day here and sunny, which is pretty much average for this time of year. So.
I want one. I got one here that I want to address.
All right.
Sorry, it's tall. I could probably guess which competitor this is, which I'm not going to name. How tough is it to program an SDS without a computer? Because a competitor of yours heavily insists that it's too difficult to program without the software and does not make sense. I'll be honest with you. Patience is a big thing when programming these scanners manually. Patience is the key word. If you want to take the time, read the manual, get an understanding of how to operate the scanner, it can be done. I'll give you an example. I know this is not the SDS. I was talking to a customer last week, and he's got the 125 AT. For the life of him, he could not program it. He didn't want to spend the time looking at the manual. So he was buying something else from me, and he was telling me about his 125 AT. He's trying to program it in for aviation. He bought it, threw it in a drawer. I said, I got a video that's on YouTube. It's how to program it for the railroad frequencies, but it's the same damn thing. Instead of 160 point blah 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 blah, it's 118 blah 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 blah, or whatever aviation frequency. It's the same exact thing. So I sent him an email, and I figured, this is one I have to forward to our boss, the other Rich, how valuable video is to our customer base. So I sent this over to, him. Week later, I get a reply back. I'm using my 125 AT thanks to you watching your video.
Yeah, from the boss.
Yeah. So the thing is, these radios, it just depends on how much time you want to spend on it and your skill level. And, the thing is, I will agree, yes, it is easier to program the scanner using software. But I've had customers, there's a guy that I worked with a lot when I was in the Massachusetts office. Every single scanner, no matter what make or model, he programmed it through the keypad.
Yep.
And
if you can program a scanner through the keypad, even if you've got computer software for it, if you can program it from the keypad, it'll give you a much greater understanding of how the darn thing works. If you do that programming, because it'll help you understand it. So it might be easy to do with a computer, but learn how to do it with a keyboard, And that way, if you're stuck out in the field, you can still do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The one scanner that I say that's probably the easiest to field program is the Whistler PSR. What the hell?
WS1040.
Yeah, 1040, 1065, or the GRE PSR 500, 600. I've always told people, if you're looking to field program something quick and dirty, those radios are great to do that, but you have to make sure that you follow all the steps in programming. If you leave off the type, where you're storing this frequency or talk group, then you're going to run into an issue. But if you can follow the steps and do it right, quick and dirty with this, because basically with this radio, it's all object orientated, for example. So what it's going to be is you're going to put in a new frequency. First thing, you're going to drill down. It's like taking a test. That's the way I would describe to our customer on the phone. It's like taking a test. You're filling in the blanks. Frequency, alpha tag, what scan list it's going to be in, PL tone. You're going to bang, bang, bang all the way down this list, and then you're going to program it in and store it, and it's done. With the Uniden radio, dynamic allocated memory structure, slightly different. It's peeling back an onion. You've got multiple layers, and you're going to go in deeper and deeper and deeper. So, yes, I would say our competitor, they're erring on the side of caution, but if you're familiar enough with the radio and you're willing to take it on to program manually, yes, you could probably do it.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You have to have patience, and you have to follow the steps. And once you've done it a couple times, you can do it. It can get a little tedious if you're going to be doing channel names and stuff like that. You just want to throw a couple channels in the scanner, start scanning. You'll be up and doing that in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to know better your skill set more than. I mean, a lot of times when I talk to people on the phone, when I'm selling these scanners, I try to get a feel for where you're comfortable with, and then I'm going to try to recommend a scanner that you're going to be the most comfortable. I mean, that's the grand scheme of things. If you're new into the hobby, a Home Patrol. If you're not in a simulcast issue, like a Home Patrol 2 would be a good option, especially if you're getting this for an older family member. They're used to using a touch screen for their smartphone. They're going to be able to navigate a little bit easier through the touchscreen, and they're not overwhelmed by, this is not a good example, this one. All the buttons. It's like, buttons, woo! That's why, so the difference in between the manufacturers. So you've got, granted this is the GRE, but it's basically Whistler at this point. You see how the GRE/Whistler has got a lot more buttons, and Uniden has less. Now, the concept of the two manufacturers is one keystroke to be able to do a process on the Whistler side. Uniden side, they're concerned about the person purchasing the radio being freaked out about all the buttons. So there's fewer buttons, but the problem with the fewer buttons is you got to do a function plus another button to get to a task. So, and that's kind of the mindset in between the two manufacturers.
Yeah, and the one thing that I tell people that if they're familiar with Whistler or GRE or Radio Shack scanners, you're going to be much more comfortable in that environment. If you're familiar with the Uniden scanners like I am, you're going to be much more comfortable there because you're going to know where this stuff is. Even on stuff that you haven't seen before, you're going to be able to find it easier on the platform that you're more used to. So, Lacey wrote asking what scanners would do cell phones, and Todd answered that one real quickly. None will. So, no. Todd, you're absolutely right.
Cell phones.
Do cell phones anymore, and even the scanners that did do cell phones don't work anymore.
So, that's an old school type of the monitoring. It was basically scanner enthusiasts basically stumbled across, I can hear cordless phones. I can hear cell phones. Technology has advanced so much that, they're digital and they're encrypted, and you're not going to be able to hear it. The other thing with cell phones, when you could hear it, you're only going to be able to hear that conversation until it goes to the next tower, and then you're going to lose it.
Right.
Unless the person's sitting in one spot and it doesn't jump from a different frequency, you're going to be able to hear the conversation. Typically, if you're listening to a conversation, a lot of times, in most cases, they're in a vehicle moving, so it's going to jump from one tower to another. I can remember back in the day when I did hear a cell phone conversation on the vehicle, the person was multitasking with an inappropriate conversation on the phone. I'll just leave it at 900 number type of conversation, and I don't know, driving and doing other things I don't think is a good combination.
No, that could be that could be
hazardous.
Yeah,
yes.
Messy, I was going to say. So, So, but basically, nowadays you can't listen to cell phone calls, and we get that call all the time. So that's that. Let's see here. Alicia used to be a New York State Fire Police member. So again, that was something that I never had understood. I've been a firefighter and I've been a police officer, but I'd never heard of fire police until I started working here, and I started seeing it in the database. What the heck is a fire police? So somebody had to explain that one to me. They do traffic control, so they have peace officer authority while they're working. Okay, thank you for that. Anybody here doing searching for handbands? Todd is out in South Dakota, and they put up a new 6-meter repeater on 53 megahertz or 53.17 megahertz. So if you're out in South Dakota, listen for that. I'm a ham. I've worked a few 6-meter repeaters in my time, but the most fun I had on 6 meters was when I was up in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island during a contest. And I was working 6-meter sideband from my car, and I had an ICOM R7 or IC7000 in my car working 6-meter sideband during some contest. And Edward brother was trying to work me because I was in Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, where there's not a lot of ham activity compared to where in other places. And I was talking to guys from all over the U.S. and Canada. On that because they all wanted to get that contact because of where I was. So, and there was an app I had for my phone that would give me my grid square number based on GPS, so I could tell them what the grid square was. So if you've ever done contesting, you know what that's all about. All righty. So, he heard his phone vibrating. Yep. And so Steve says, don't tick off a fire police by running over a 5-inch supply line, PA. Your car will meet a hydrant wrench pretty quickly. That could happen. I was directing traffic once at a fire scene while I was on the police department, and doing it at night, and my flashlight died, so I'm directing traffic with a highway flare. And if you're very careful, you can do that with a highway flare. You got to be very careful because otherwise you'll drip molten sulfur on you, and that hurts. But I did it all the time, so I knew what I was doing. And I had this guy who was coming right at me, and he wasn't stopping. And these highway flares have a spike on the bottom, so you would spike it into the ground before you light them, and then you light them off while it's spiked into the ground. You could jack that thing right into the pavement; it would stay there. Well, I jacked it right into the hood of this guy's car. He's driving down the street with a lit flare in front of him, and he eventually got stopped down there, and he was total DUI. So he got arrested, and he had a hole in the hood of his car. So, Robert writes, in Arizona they have posses. That's called sheriff posses. So originally, and he asked about what if they have to have their own channel or they can operate in the sheriff's channel. So it really depends on where you were at. So in Arizona, they have sheriff's posses, and each county works it a little bit differently. But it started off in the old days where, the old time sheriff on horseback with a cowboy hat would round up a posse, go chasing after the bad guys. But those laws stayed in place. And nowadays, these sheriff's posses are, depending on where you are at, they could be anything from something similar to a fire police where they provide traffic direction in emergency scenes, or assistance, and sometimes they actually can provide law enforcement functions or as a neighborhood watch type of thing and stuff. And so on smaller counties, they may operate directly on the sheriff's channel. Out here in Maricopa County, where I'm at, which is one of the biggest counties in the country, they have their own channels, usually on the sheriff's radio system, or some of the bigger ones may have their own radio infrastructure. So it all depends on the operation. And I don't know if any other states have sheriff's posses anymore. They do have them out here in Arizona. So let's see here. Fire buffs. So the fire police are probably kind of an outgrowth of the fire buff thing. There are groups of fire buffs who provide vital services at fire scenes. In the Chicago area, we had a thing called the Canteen.
Yes.
And it was run by the Salvation Army, and there were a couple other non-Salvation Army canteens out there, and they would go to large fire scenes. In fact, they'd even be on the box alarm cards to be called automatically to some of these scenes, and they would provide coffee and refreshments for firefighters who are working the scene, rehab operations, water. Sometimes they'd have clean gloves, and stuff like that to help the firefighters recover, so that they can then go back, to work. And that was when the canteen showed up, the firefighters loved that because, if it's 20 degrees below zero and they're out there fighting a fire, they'll be given a break. They go to the canteen, get a cup of coffee or hot chocolate, a cookie or a biscuit or something like that to, keep them going. And then they'll go right back to work. And being on the police department, obviously we like them too for that respect. I used them when I was both on the police department and before that when I was on the fire department. So they were great. And a lot of areas have these fire buffs. Kenosha has a thing called the fire bells. Same type of thing. They provide kind of a support service for the fire department. Without being firefighters themselves, for the most part, they are out there to provide some service. But yeah, they're there because they enjoy that type of thing and they enjoy helping out. So I suppose that's all part of the same thing.
Yeah, there's several of those canteen trucks in Massachusetts. I know there was one in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And I believe there was one in Boston, in the Boston area. And that was exactly what it was. I mean, they were there to be able to provide them, like you said, just, some relief, because, they may be at a fire scene for quite a long time and, just be able to grab something nice and warm if it's cold out. Especially in the Northeast. I mean,
and then in the summertime it gets hot and sticky, and now you got a cold beverage. You can get a bottle of water, some Gatorade or something like that. They're all the kudos you can imagine to those guys. They are providing a great service to the people who are providing a service to you. So anything to help the police and fire departments out there, and that's a great thing. So. Let's see here. Steve asked, does anybody take time to RTFM? So RTFM means read the flippin' manual.
A lot of people don't. I've asked majority of the customers, they'll tell me, I've read it cover to cover. Some people, unfortunately, are visual learners. They don't want to take the time to read it. So a lot of times the videos that we produce over on the Scanner Master YouTube account typically are the easiest to follow. I mean, you can walk through, see visually the steps as if I was, right in front of you, leading you down what you need to do. Alicia, this is just looking at 46 minutes past. It's her birthday on the 6th, so I'll have to remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why. I was kind of thinking the 6th, is there some sort of holiday or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for the most part, we'll probably end up doing 50, 51 shows, next year. Oh my God, can you imagine? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as it's not holiday or one of us aren't in the hospital or something like that.
Sick or dead, we'll be
sick
here.
or dead, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be here.
It was like my last 17 years at work, I didn't call in sick once in the last 17 years, and before that I had some other time, but for 17 years in a row, I made it without calling in sick. So. Let's see here. And I haven't had a day off this year. So, of course, nowadays you can't. There's nothing to do anyway, so it might as well work, right?
I mean, I mean, the camper is sat in the driveway for almost it'll be 2 years.
Yeah. See, if I had the camper, I'd be out in the camper. My wife would tell me, get out of
I don't have a 30 amp on the outside of the house as of yet, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to work on that. So, Les is he's in the Greater Toronto area, and he says the 436 is actually working pretty well there with the simulcast. So, it's very hit or miss.
It's basically how close you are to those particular towers. If you're like we discussed a couple of weeks ago, we looked at Rowan County, and that's the county that I'm in, and I'm situated right up. We talked about it during the broadcast, and then I drove past the tower. I said, "Oh, there it is," and I said, "That's right up the street from me." So that's why I'm not having any simulcast issues because I'm right up against it. And then we were looking at some of the other tower locations in the county. If I was in the dead center in the middle of the towers, then you're gonna have simulcast issues.
Well, like where I'm at, I am as far away from the city as you can be and still be considered in the Phoenix area. I mean, I live way out in the middle of the desert, and I do live within about a mile of a simulcast site. In fact, I can look out my back door and see it at night with the tower light. But since that's the only tower that's anywhere near me that I can hear, I don't get simulcast distortion because the scanner doesn't know that it's a simulcast site. Kevin at 7:59 my time, whatever. I guess that's what 9:59 your time. Says with the SDS 100, does it scan faster or better if you have the ID search on versus having it off? It doesn't really make a difference on a trunking system with the Uniden scanners. The way the Uniden scanners work on a trunking system is when it's commanded to check a trunking system, it checks the control channel and it asks the control channel if there's any activity, and then it compares that activity to what's in its scan list. So if you've got talk groups listed as in your favorites list, and they match what the control channel is telling them, it'll go to that talk group. If you have it on ID search, it'll stop on any talk group, and it'll look up that talk group to see if there's a name attached to it and display the name if it's there. It's not going to make it scan any faster. It's going to, but it's just going to tell you whether or not you're going to hear more traffic. So it doesn't affect the scan speed, as it were. So Bob says he's worked the entire coast of the U.S., entire east coast of the U.S. and Canada on 6 meters, as well as some Caribbean stations. So 6 meters is kind of a neat frequency. It's kind of it gives a lot of low band capabilities, so when low band is up, sometimes 6 meters will be up as well. But it's a little bit higher frequency, so it's not quite the same as low band sometimes, but it's a neat it's a neat band to operate if you've got the radio and antenna capable of doing so. Fire police are mostly retired firefighters. Okay, that makes sense. And Worcester, or Worcester, as we would say, have one. They're called Box 4. They're all retired firefighters. Worcester? Yeah, Worcester. 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 Actually, there's a city or county in Maryland that's exactly the same spelling, and they call it Worcester, which is the proper pronunciation. I get a call all the time. And they say, well, the company's the boss, but you don't sound like you're from there. I said, no, they fly me in once a year, and
well, you haven't been flown out there for a long time.
Well, I was there last year, but not this year. But they or was it? Oh,
no, you weren't there.
It's been 2 years. No, it was 2 years.
The last time you were there was when I was there.
Yeah. Well, they have to hire me an interpreter every time they fly me in. So, Condor antenna. Where is it? There it is. One more question about the Condor antenna you sell. Does it all band like from 140 through 1200? Yeah, actually, the Condor works really well. It even works on low band too. The 25 to 50 band. It's a great antenna for just about every frequency range. The only problem with the Condor is it's about a foot tall, so it's a great big antenna.
It's a floppy antenna.
Floppy.
I'm reading
if you have the
birthday
antenna on your
screen.
belt, it's going to be poking in your armpit. So
I was reading birthday and a floppy birthday. Sorry, I'm reading off the screen.
Yeah. Let's see. So apparently the Red Cross has some canteens in Steve's neck of the woods. And 6 meters is called the Magic Band. Yep. So, it is. It's a very unusual band. So even if you're not a ham, pop some of the 6 meter frequencies into your radio, or put that in your scan list, and you'll hear some stuff on there sometimes. And when it's hopping, boy, it's hopping.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Well, that's about the extent of it, my friend.
Yeah, so that's about the extent of it. We'll go through some of our slides just to remind you of a couple of things before we wrap things up, and then we'll answer any last-minute questions that you may have. Let's take a look at that right now. So we want to remind you, we're looking for your stupid scanner tricks. Email those over to us at thescannerguys@gmail.com, thescannerguys@gmail.com. Send us your photos, hints, and tricks. We would love to see them. Also, we're going to remind you, if you've got any scanner questions, email support@scannermaster.com. You can give us a call on our toll-free number Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1-800-722-6637. We will be closed on Friday, December the 25th for Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Also, we're open 24/7 online at scannermaster.com. And next week's broadcast, Wednesday, December the 30th of 2020, the final, the Scanner Guys broadcast. We're going to be talking about antennas and accessories for your new scanner. If you got one under the Christmas tree, we're going to talk about that. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and make sure you give the video a like as well. We would love to be able to see those numbers go up on our page. Make sure you like and follow all of the social media as well, which we're going to remind you of shortly. Scanner Guys swag. Order your t-shirts, hats, and so on online at thescannerguys.weebly.com. And the Train Aficionado live show, which will be a couple days before Alicia's birthday. It'll be Monday, January the 4th of 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the Train Aficionado YouTube account as well. And, oh, yes, Chinese food. It's hard to get good Chinese food down here. And follow, like, and subscribe to all the Train Aficionado social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Master social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as well. And then all the social media across the board for the Scanner Guys, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And as always, Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. Yes, so next week's broadcast will be the New Year's Eve show. So we'll be talking about accessories and so much more right here on the channel. So we hope that you join us. And hopefully everybody stays safe during the holiday season. And we will be back next week.
Yeah, that's it. So Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Happy Festivus, Happy Hanukkah, whatever flips your lid. Hope you have a great one.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being a part of the Scanner Guys community. If you've made it this far into the 2 hours and 15-minute broadcast, whether it be the live show or replay, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you wear your mask, as Alicia said. That's definitely a key thing. We will catch you again next week. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson. For those counting, I'm on bottle number 5.
All right, well, have a pleasant evening. We will catch you again next week.
See you then.
Bye-bye.